Well, folks, here we again for the weekly forecast. Of course, during this last week, the big item of interest was the big storm system that moved through the central plains that brought some heavy precipitation to portions of Nebraska. So far, the heaviest totals have come from northeast and east central Nebraska, particularly just southwest of Sioux City, Iowa, and of course in the Omaha metropolitan area, where between 5 and 6 inches of precipitation were reported with this system. Now, as we get into north central Nebraska, general totals were anywhere from about 3/4 of an inch to about 1.5 inches, with isolated pockets of 2 to 3 inches. And as we move south of the Interstate 80 region, that's where the precipitation total started to drop off dramatically, particularly in central, south central, portions of southwest, and a substantial portion of the panhandle really didn't receive much more than a dusting of precipitation to upwards of 1/2 inch. So we still have some abnormally dry conditions to deal with, particularly in the western portions of the state. The panhandle looks to be the worst of the case with the dry conditions, but we have seen an expansive area of southwest and portions of south central Nebraska that really could stand to receive a good 1 to 2 inches of precipitation, particularly since we're having some problems in terms of wheat planting with the very hard soil conditions interfering with the ability to put out the wheat into the ground. So do we have moisture in the forecast? Let's take a look at the upper models and see what we can expect. The first thing we'll draw your attention to is that we have ridging across the central United States. So for today here in Nebraska, it looks like it'd be a very nice day. Very much in the way of seasonal temperatures, upper 70s east to low 80s west. And the only activity that we see in terms of potential precipitation is in the far Pacific Northwest, and that is not expected to have any impact in Nebraska for the next couple of days. So as we go into tomorrow, we will see that the energy starts to move into the Pacific Northwest and will rapidly slide across the northern plains. But for here in Nebraska, the ridge actually expands northward and eastward, so we should see a temperature boost of 4 to 5 degrees here in Nebraska compared to today, and that will mean tomorrow's highs will be in the lower 80s to the upper 80s depending on location of the state, coolest to the east. As we get into Monday, we will start to see some flattening of this ridge, but it still keeps the warm air in place over the central plains, so we'll be looking at probably our warmest day of the week statewide, low 90s in the southwest, to the mid-80s across eastern Nebraska, but most of the precipitation, if it does fall, will occur in the Dakotas. And as we get into Tuesday, now we start to see some cool air starting to move into the Great Lakes with that system moving across the northern plains, and that will allow a little bit of cool air to filter in to northeast Nebraska, but we're keeping the precipitation at bay at this time. In the southwest corner of the state, we're still going to remain in that warm sector, so it's very possible to see upper 80s to low 90s once again, but by the time we get to Wednesday, the system starts in the Pacific Northwest, starts making its way toward the central plains. That's going to increase the interaction with the monsoon flow coming out of the southwest, and we start to expect to see thunderstorms developing in the late afternoon hours in the western part of the state, and that will carry over in the evening hours into central Nebraska, and a more widespread precipitation outbreak on Thursday as the system moves across the state, showers and scattered thunderstorms statewide, and that will continue into Friday across eastern Nebraska, more likely going to be more showers than anything else with a cooling trend. So when we look at the temperature forecast, we are looking at the warmest conditions this week, cooling down during the midweek period with those chances of precipitation, and then as we look at the 8 to 14 day forecast from next Thursday to the following Tuesday, the entire lower 48 is looking to be above normal in terms of temperatures, and as far as precipitation, yet another system makes its impact on Nebraska with a bullseye right over the central plains.